Hi, my name is Shai Korman, and my favorite thing always will be Cats, the musical, the movie, pretty much anything jellicle.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hi there, welcome back to Finding Favorites. It is Sunday afternoon, and yesterday afternoon I recorded this interview with my friend Shai Korman. Shai and I share two loves, possibly more. The more we get to know each other, the more we find we have in common. One is the podcast, How Did This Get Made?, which everyone listening to my podcast probably knows is my favorite. And recently, like last week, How Did This Get Made did a quarantine live show where they reviewed the movie Cats. And through the course of it, Shai and I came to realize that we both love the musical, love the movie. And so he got on the phone with me yesterday to talk about his love of cats. His love of cats way outstrips his devotion to cats outstrips my devotion. I listened to it a ton growing up. I love it. And, but I think Shai listened to it probably 10,000 times more than me. So this is a conversation about cats, about how did this get made. It was just really fun. It's really starting to be fall here in Chicago. There's a cold front coming in. The temperature is dropping precipitously this afternoon. I saw Instagram posts from friends in Minnesota and Iowa with some snow flurries. So it is the time to keep doing your good COVID hygiene. So wear your mask, wash your hands, stay home if you can, and stay safe. And early voting is in progress in Chicago. If you have early voting in your state or voting by mail, it's definitely time to get on that, because one of the benefits of voting early is making it safer, voting day safer for people who don't have the opportunity to early vote and for poll workers. So if we can spread out exposure for everyone while exercising our democratic right to vote, it's a good thing. So get out there and vote, and also wear a mask and wash your hands. Have a good week. Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. This is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things without using an algorithm. I'm really excited today. I've got Shai Korman from, I almost said Pancakes for Dinner, which is your Twitter account, but he is from the podcast Friday Night Movies, which once I found out he had a podcast, started listening to and tried to keep up on watching TV with Shai and his sisters. So Shai, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling jellicle today.
Are you feeling jellicle?
Unironically, one might say ineffably, jellicle today.
It's a good feeling. Now, if you had to describe what feeling jellicle felt like, how would you describe it?
With an innate sense of wonder and a sense of history and a sense of generation to generation rebirth. People often ask, what does that mean? I have an answer. It's deep in my soul.
It's perfect because Shai and I know each other. We're not going to do a long intro today because we both have a hard stop Zoom obligation after our interview. So we're going to really dive into the business of our conversation. But Shai and I know each other originally from the Jewish world. We met each other at a conference. We met each other at a retreat a couple years ago and started talking podcasts, or I had a t-shirt on. We very quickly realized we are both fans of How Did This Get Made? I've been on his podcast with his sister to talk about our shared love of Jason Mantzoukas. And when I started this podcast, Shai is the person who gave me a lesson on things like how to plug my microphone into the computer, not just near the computer. So I'm really grateful to have him with me today. And what are we here to talk about?
We are here to talk about Cats, the musical, the movie, I guess the poems as well.
Yeah.
But I spend my days watching television and movies of all kind. One might even say I have good taste. But one of the things I love about your show, what I love about this show, is the fact that it fights all sense of algorithm. I feel like the algorithms are in some ways taking over. Like, it's nice to get a few recommendations from Netflix, but at a certain point, we're not necessarily having people take a risk the way they could with something like Cats. And so I love the music, the music, the movie, the musical of Cats. And no one would have me on a show to talk about this if algorithms were dictating the choices.
Right. Absolutely not. And right before I hit record we started talking, and I was like, stop it. You're saving. Those are good things. So we're both fans of How Did This Get Made? And
the best ever.
The most fun podcast. And last weekend they did their first quarantine live show, where it's a podcast about bad movies. And so they did their long-awaited live show about Cats. Except for that, Cats is not a bad movie. Did you watch the episode?
I did watch the episode. I missed the live because of my nephew's bar mitzvah related activities and socially distanced bar mitzvah related activities, but I missed the live. And then you were posting about it, and my sister Becky was watching it and giving me updates on it. And so by the next morning I had because it was a pay-per-view, and this is the most I've ever paid probably for anything, and I paid for it, and I was out walking the dog dying of laughter, because one thing I appreciate is, even if it's something I love, if people can make fun of it in a good way, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm on board. To me, like, a kid because you love.
Yes. When Cats came out, I'll start with the movie, but then I want to get into where you encountered the musical for the first time. When the movie came out, I was worried because I grew up on the probably London cast sound.
Oh, London cast. I was a Broadway cast kid. Okay, cool.
So, but I grew up with that album on repeat. One of the only Broadway shirt I had was a Cats shirt, and I wore it for years. The only touring company I ever saw come through Terre Haute, Indiana was the Cats at the Holman Arena, on a basketball court.
Amazing.
So the music of Cats is truly in my DNA. And when I saw the movie, I cried through almost all of it, because I have a senior cat. He's 19. And Cats, to me, is about, it gave me some space to grieve what it's going to be like to lose Spidey.
Oh.
So for me, Cats is a moving, fun, wonderful piece of art. So how did you find Cats for the very first time? How did it come into your life?
So before, like many people and like our heroes at How Did This Get Made, those commercials, I lived in Philadelphia in the 80s, and the commercials of Cats at the Winter Garden Theater, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. And it was this, and my parents went to see it and they told me about it, and they were explaining how there was people dressed as cats and they acted like cats and how entrancing it was, and that was amazing. But then it was around 1991 or so. We were visiting my grandparents in Brooklyn, and my parents felt that we were finally old enough, the three kids, I'm the oldest of three, to go into the city and see a Broadway show. And their decision was, if they're going to see their first Broadway show, it's going to be Cats at the Winter Garden Theater.
I love it.
And I still remember I remember where we sat in the Winter Garden Theater and how majestic it felt, and the giant boots and tires and bicycles. And I had never, and unlike other folks, I had heard Memories because it consistently was something we sang at the Jewish Chagigat Breshitz and Zimriaz at Hebrew Day School. I have no idea.
Truly, Memories was the song that the soprano that you grew up with sang. One soprano every year at a talent show sang Memories. It was the rule.
100%. Leslie Sherman, she had a beautiful voice. Every year we'd be doing the Passover model Seder. Leslie, come out, do Memories for everyone. And so other than Memories, which is the outlier anyway in the show, I had not really heard a single word of it except once at this kid's house. He played me like Mr. Mistopheles for a few seconds, but that was it. And I had only had these visions of mostly the Rum Tum Tugger. That's the one I remembered the most.
Yeah.
And I still remember. So I love music. I go see concerts. And for me, if I see a concert and I remember a song from that concert, that's a huge compliment to that song. Because if you hear a song you've never heard before at a concert and then you're like leaving the show, tapping your foot, humming it. And I still remember when the opening number hits to the singing, to the Jellicle Cats song that is often made fun of. And the cats are doing the windmill guitar move and they're jumping forward in this massive group. And it blew my mind. And the rest of the play I remember, and it was amazing in Mr. Mistopheles, but it's that first number that will forever be a moment of total wonderment for me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I remember about this is that, and what people don't talk enough about, is that Cats requires a level of physicality and singing that really isn't in other Broadway shows that I've seen. And when I see,
honestly, it's probably at a level of Hamilton, of like constant movement.
Right.
The chorus is often involved. Like it's a very physical, sung through show.
Exactly. And I remember we went to see other Broadway shows in subsequent years, and I'm like, I don't get it. Where's all the dancing and the singing here? Either they're, like Les Mis, amazing. I have like a few favorites. Les Mis is one of them, but they don't do much dancing. There's a lot of like banging things.
Yeah.
like and deep kind of operatic singing, but amazing singing. But you don't see. I'm like, I don't get it. Where are the jumps?
Yeah.
They're not jumping.
Where's the acrobats? Where's the
So for me, it set the standard for Broadway and live performance, and I instantly walked out of there. We had a CD that was like the selections of Cats. I listened to it all the time.
Yep.
I learned all the words. It's just stuck with me forever. It's and my sisters feel the same way. They don't love it the way I do, but they feel the same way about that wondrous moment.
Yeah, we had like the LP, the double. It was a double album cast recording. I think it was London. It might have been the Broadway cast, but we would.
I have analyzed the differences, so I could figure this out with you. Let me just ask. Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
The Rumble Teaser and Mungo Jerry song. Was it the one that's in the
teaser?
Was it the one that was in the movie? Was that a familiar tune, or was it a different tune? Because the one that's in the movie is the London cast version of it, and then the American cast. That's one of the big differences in the two shows.
Oh, I have to very quickly do. I'm going on YouTube right now. Okay, so what did you say? It's Rumple. It's the
Mungo Jerry, Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser. So the one that's more like Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser, is the London one, and the one that's Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser.
That's the one I know.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I think that's more the American one.
Okay, so I had the New York recording, but it was. I mean, we just listened the two cast albums that we had growing up were that and the Bette Midler Gypsy.
Wow.
So I went to see Gypsy like 2 years ago, a local production. And at the middle, at intermission, I said to my friends, I was like, I know all of these songs. Like, how do I've never seen this before, and I know every song. And I Googled it, and it was a Bette Midler maybe movie. And we had like, so those were the two, that was like my musical theater introduction. Terre Haute, Indiana. You're not, what are you singing? So Cats came through on a tour, the classic 80s choreography. Oh, yeah. And we went and we had seats on the floor in Holman Center. And it was such, the two shows I remember seeing there were Cats and Jay Leno doing stand-up comedy. And Jay Leno is, he's hilarious. He is an excellent, outstanding stand-up comic.
I grew up in Montreal. My parents didn't take us to see Cats when it toured. It probably toured more than once, but they didn't take us to see it. We saw it on Broadway. And then I think the next time I saw it was, it might have been 10 or 20 years later, because it went out of theaters and it wasn't touring for a while. And
right.
And when I realized that, when it closed, which was amazing to me that it eventually closed, and then Mamma Mia, I think, replaced it in the building, which is, I like the movie Mamma Mia. I'm not going to see that play though.
Right.
I remember I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I remember I would pop on over lunch sometimes just to see like where Cats might be touring so I could see it again. Because for a while there wasn't YouTube really, or I didn't know if it was on YouTube. Eventually now a lot of the numbers are on YouTube. And I definitely didn't know about that DVD from the 90s until much later. And then I bought that and watched that like 100 times.
Yeah.
But there's something magic about seeing it live. And so I was like stressed out looking online waiting for, I'm like, what do you mean it's only touring in Japan? Where's Cats?
Right.
And then I think, I don't know, 10 or so years ago, I think it started touring again, and then it didn't stop. And then it's sort of been going for a while, but there's no replacement for seeing it live. It's incredible.
And then there was like the new choreography, the show that's touring now, pre-COVID. So I saw it in Chicago, maybe the same year the movie came out. It came back to Broadway. It had new staging, a new style of costumes.
Yeah, some of the costumes were changed, and some of the numbers were changed and rearranged.
And I took a friend to that because I get Broadway and Chicago season tickets. I get tickets for 2. I'm single, but it's not hard to find someone to like go with you to a free Broadway show.
Yeah, it's so fun to go to shows with people.
So fun. And I took a friend who grew up in New York, had never seen it, like obviously grew up on the ads. And she was like, Leah, what is happening? At intermission, she was like, what is going on? What's the plot? And I'm like, I think Cats is kind of like a chorus line. Because if you think about a chorus line, chorus line does have more of a driving plot, which is like, she was a star, she fell out of grace, there's like a love connection, there's a history there. But at its core, a chorus line is just a series of introductions.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know a chorus line that well, but
you didn't do lighting and sound for it in high school? No,
I wasn't the only theater thing we had a Shakespeare play in 9th grade, and my best friend Josh Crew and we were in the opening scene where the bite your thumb at you scene. And then after that, we helped our dear friend Alana as like behind the scenes guy. And my big moment during that was we were moving the bed out or the apothecary stand or something. And the curtain came up and it was just me moving equipment. And I like waved at the crowd and everybody laughed. And then I like ran off stage. That was my theater. Things where I have to remember the same thing over and over again really stressed me out.
Fair.
And so, but this is a big hang up for me is people who are like, get so angry, and it's usually really artistic, intelligent people, get so angry about what is the plot of Cats. These are definitely people who would go see O in Vegas or whatever the latest nonsense Cirque du Soleil. Yeah. And I saw the first Cirque du Soleil in Montreal when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Nonsense. Okay. Total nonsense. No one's sitting in that going like, what was the plot with the contortionist? This at least has great songs, incredible physicality, incredible songs. And it does have a story. The story is, and actually, like, it does have a story. And I think the movie, when we get into the movie does a really nice job bringing some more character work into that story.
Absolutely.
It does a beautiful job with it, and it's like a slightly tilted different lens, and that's great. But it has a story. There's a bunch of cats getting together for this moment where they all show off who they are and are. It's like Simchas Torah. They're just like super excited once a year. Something's ending, something's beginning.
Yep.
Right. And no, I don't think anyone's ever said Cats is the Simchas Torah of Broadway. And
I think more people lean Purim. But
okay,
I think Simchat Torah actually is better because, right, you're going from Old Deuteronomy, Going from Devarim. You're going from Deuteronomy to Breshit.
Exactly. Right there. It's biblical.
Yeah.
From the man who brought you Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah.
And then you have this other plot where if you've seen it enough times or you think about it, you have the McCavity plot line, which is there is this character who is corrupting and trying to ruin or damage the beauty of the society that they have. And there's all sorts of different slight interpretations. Sometimes McCavity is running the Mungo Jerry and the Rumble Teaser. They work for him. And in other productions, he's got sort of more faceless, goons that go out and do the kidnapping. And then there's also and then this is where I wouldn't say I border on fan fiction here, but I've always looked at the different
You're
cats.
allowed to have a headcanon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in my head, there are different cats that have consistent roles, and there are relationships between them. Not necessarily romantic per se, but I definitely ship Munkustrap and Demeter. Like I've been shipping them for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I have no idea or Munkustrap really, or maybe he's more of your Luke Skywalker type character. He's got to really keep everything under control and doesn't have time for romance, but he will protect the clan. Who knows? So there's a lot of headcanon for me.
Yeah.
So what I loved about the movie is I feel like took someone's headcanon and added those little threads. And that was and I thought it played so well.
I saw it maybe I'm glad I didn't see the version where the CGI wasn't done yet.
Oh, I saw both.
Oh, you saw both?
Yeah.
I saw it maybe a week after it was in the theater, so they had already sent out the cleaned up version. So you saw the one where the costumes didn't keep up with them, or?
I mean, yeah. Honestly, I was so excited because I saw it the day it came out with my dear friend Carrie White. We went to go see it, and then the next week I went to see it with my sister Becky in California with my kids and a whole bunch of other people. And I was waiting for it. I didn't notice, I didn't notice that much of a difference. Maybe the bodies moved a lot better and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what they were cleaning up. Do you know what they were cleaning up specifically? I feel like they were mysterious about it.
Right. I had a friend who saw it twice. She saw it the day it came out. I think it was just, I think the first release was maybe a little dizzying.
Yeah, I could see that. There were some times. I mean, there are times where the cats don't look human. I mean, I guess they're not supposed to look human, but they don't look like they look like stick figures.
Yeah. So I think there was some smoothing of the movements and maybe just making sure all their parts keep up with the human body, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because those were the parts that. If anything, I mean, I can speak critically about the movie. If anything took me out of the movie was the amount of CGI. If I was filming that movie myself, if I could make my own headcanon version, is this the appropriate time to talk about that, or is this too early?
There's an appropriate time. Yes, go.
My pitch, because they'll never make it again, right? Universal is so burned by this, but my pitch is...
I think there's going to be a long tail of people that are you know what? Actually, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, all these people that are watching it during... quarantine,
who are wait a minute, I watched this as a joke and I liked it.
Yeah, and now I'm oh well, there never was.
Ever got so clever, it's magical. Sorry, go on. So if you were gonna pitch it,
if I were gonna pitch it to the point of what we were talking about the physicality of that play, right? So, you have different roles on the play. People don't know this, are they're not taking the time necessarily all the time to think about it, but different roles are cast for different styles of performers. Everyone thinks they're cats, but Mr. Mistopheles has to be the best male dancer in the group and able to jump, right?
Right.
And Victoria has to be a ballerina. In the movie, it's Hayward. It's Francesca Hayward. She's the lead in the Royal Ballet. There's a reason why every movement she does in that movie is incredible.
Perfection.
And
yeah.
The way I would have filmed it is rather than go hard on CGI and I would have done it more the way Hooper did Les Mis. Like, you know how he made an effort of making it so like you were hearing the singers live, right? Like there was this whole thing about how they had earpieces. I would have tried to film the dancing in as many single takes or making it look like single takes as possible. So I would take more of the approach of like a martial arts movie than I would have taken a fantasy movie, because what would blow people's minds away is then people would walk away from this not saying like, wait, why do those two twin cats look like characters from a kid's cartoon? Holy moly, they've showcased some of the best dancers in the world, and we're getting to see them move and filmed in a way that no one has filmed dancing before. And to me, I would have done that. And then the same thing with the singing. I actually liked a lot of the casting, but I would have the people I thought were best in the film were the Broadway performers or were the stage performers, meaning the Laurie Davidson, I think that's the person who plays Mistopheles, the guy who played Munkustrap. I don't remember his name right now. Francesca Hayward. Like, what's impressive is those guys who can dance like that or dance and sing like that. So, you know, that's how I would have gone with a very realistic, like, you know, practical costumes, practical filming, so that people could say, wow, Cats made no sense, but I've never seen dancing like that on screen.
Yeah. I think it would have really improved with practical costumes. I agree there. There was no reason for it to be all CGI. I mean, if you're going to CGI anything, I get it on the backgrounds, because doing the practical sets of all the giant things, and I don't have any time to worry about the scale. I don't care.
Oh, yeah. Why are people freaking out about the scale?
Right. Like,
oh, the chicken bone was too big. What?
Right. Yeah, the teapot's too small on this one. The statue and Trafalgar Square is too small. This is too big. I don't care.
Yeah, when you watch
it's
a Disney movie,
dancing cats.
Right. There's my sister has a great line where she says, we both get like pretty intense about this. Becky's words are, I wrote this down. People who don't enjoy this film have no sense of wonder and are afraid to lean into the surreal and spectacular. And I don't mean to attack everyone. I'm not attacking everyone, because I also enjoy when people make fun of this movie, because, but I you know, like, that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be nuts. Yeah. And the other thing I love is I do really love most of the songs. They're so much fun. They're playful. They're based on the T.S. Eliot poems. That's the other thing. When people go after the poems or they go after the lyrics and Andrew Lloyd Webber, I'm like, Andrew Lloyd Webber just adapted the poems, guys. He in fact made it make more sense. Right.
Yeah, you're hating the wrong author. It's just embrace it as like a sound garden. That's a band. But, you know, like, it's just embrace it as an experience. How can the same people who go with no sense of self-awareness to an Instagram museum, to the Museum of Ice Cream, to take pictures with a giant snow cone or like in a bowl of cherries, how can you go to an Instagram museum situation and then criticize cats?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I don't know, I'm curious what you think about this. I felt like the reviews of this movie from otherwise rational critics bordered on cyberbullying. Like they were so mean and almost like vindictive. It was like, we're in this society right now where there's a certain group of people really trying to constantly balance like a corrosive atmosphere. But, oh, look, we found something we all can pick on. Let's all pick on this. And that's how I felt. Like, I didn't see a single review where someone was just like people talking about this is the worst movie ever made. I'm like, this is the worst movie ever made? Like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I can, you know, first of all, are you a parent? Have you seen the first Trolls movie? Like,
yeah. Like, I have not seen the first Trolls movie, as I am just an auntie.
Okay, there you go. You see,
I'm spared. I was spared.
That alone, like, that movie is like less than the same story, but the characters do poop candy. So, that's another thing. I felt that the critics were like, I'm like, would you talk this way about, like, would you want someone talking this way about your kids? You know,
it felt like everyone with the ability to put a word on the internet at that time, like every film critic, everyone for a moment was the Gawker comment section from 2004. Like a very specific slice of the internet of like, no, I've got a funnier, hotter take. I can take him down harder than you can. And I do kind of appreciate that our dear friends at How Did This Get Made, like that they waited a whole year to do Cats, and they didn't do it in the moment of do an immediate release one while it was still in the theaters. I kind of love that it was a whole year later and it had some time to marinate, and so they weren't competing for the hottest, meanest take. And
they didn't seem to absorb a lot of that. Like, and on top of that, they also are delivering on their promise. Their show is 3 wonderful, brilliant improvisers making fun of something that you either like or you don't like. Like, I love the episodes where they rip apart a movie I love as much as or more than a movie where I'm just like, yeah, that movie stinks. It's actually more fun when they kill a good movie, because or when they do the Fast and the Furious movies, right? Which they love those.
They love them, yeah.
And so that's delivering on their promise. But like, I'm not looking for every random. First of all, I'm getting less and less interested in critics. A show like yours, and I'm not just sucking up because it's you. A show like yours where I appreciate the worldview of the person, and they explain to me why they like something or they're interested in something, is far more interesting to me than a professional movie critic.
Yeah,
who has to like. It's almost like people were balancing out their stats for the year. They were like, "Ooh, I've maybe been too nice about some movies this year. I better correct it."
Yeah, got to make sure to bring it down on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, oh, Rotten Tomatoes, I'm done with. Ever since The Last Jedi got a good score from the critics and a bad score from the fans, and then like I'm just like, okay, no longer interested in into aggregator things. I mean, it's a nice guide, but I'd much rather have Leah Jones tell me, oh, you should really check this out.
Yeah. I was surprised that Jason didn't cry, that he didn't admit to crying.
Me too. There was a side of me that was like praying that June and Jason were
going to be like, loved it.
Loved it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And here's my theory also. I think it depends on the context. So I have a Cats story for you.
Yes.
So I have my sister Becky, who lives in Berkeley, co-host of Friday Night Movie. I also co-host the Gold Nerds podcast about the Goldbergs with my dear friend Lance.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that one.
That's another one. I can come do Finding Favorites on the Goldbergs if you want.
So the band that does the opening song, I Fight Dragons, they were the basis of my whole. So I used to do social media for Rockstars and Rabbis.
Amazing.
I Fight Dragons were like my second music clients, but they were so good about telling people when people were like, I Fight Dragons, how did you build such a good online audience? And they were like, Leah Jones, go talk to her. And they built my whole music business by word of mouth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, what a bunch of mentions. Well, I mean, that show is amazing.
I love the Goldbergs.
And I have had, through being one of the official Gold Nerds, I've gotten to have a modicum of interaction with the people associated with the show, and everyone is just a total match.
Amazing.
Everyone. I mean, and Adam sets the tone all the way.
Yeah.
And I've made great friends. And so Lons, who we didn't know each other before we started co-hosting together, we have become close friends. She is a big Taylor Swift fan.
Okay.
And I, like a year out from Cats coming out, I was like, Taylor Swift is in this movie. I know it sounds weird, but this is going to be amazing. And so I'd been sort of building it up, and people also like to attack Taylor Swift because they think it's fun and cool, So she was with me in the sense that like people are going to hate, but I'm going to be open to this. And so I took a vacation with to visit. I had some time off, and Becky and I decided to go on an LA adventure. The two of us. I'd never been to LA before. We went to LA. We went to Largo, and we saw Tig Notaro do a show at Largo, and we ate at a bunch of places. Went to Venice Beach, went to the pier, did all that, and we got together with. I met in person for my first time, Lons, and knowing that this Taylor Swift moment was coming like months later. Once Becky and I knew we were going to California, I went on to StubHub and I got us tickets to Cats in Orange County. So like an hour, I was like, oh, I was in California. It was an hour south of
seems when you're a Midwest or East Coast person and you're like, oh, LA, Orange. Yeah. On the map, it looks like going to O'Hare and it's like going to St. Louis.
So exactly. So I tell Lons and Becky, and I said it was a lot like you do. I was like, I got us tickets to Cats. We have enough time to get there if Lons picks us up from the airport, or no, if we meet Lons at her apartment and we drive. And so we land, we drive, the three of us go. And because I StubHubbed them like 2 days before and weird things happen, we walked down and it was the first row, not the second row, the first row. And the whole drive there, I'm explaining what's going to happen and who the different cats are and who Bomb Ballerina is, because that's who Taylor Swift is going to play and what to look for. And we sit down front row. Absolutely incredible. It's my sister's first time seeing it in 20 years. And I think it also matters the context. Like, I think if Jason watched Cats with you and me, he'd love it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, what's going on here? And we'd be like, up, past the Russell, Yeah. Like, how do you not get misty when that song comes up? When Heaven Side Lair comes up?
It's impossible. I think 7 months of isolation has maybe impacted his ability to have emotions for Cats. That's fair, because I think in normal times he would have cried at least twice.
Yeah, and I appreciated that June, how much she loved Jennifer Hudson's rendition of Memory, which was immaculate. So the other thing that I think is, we were talking about Taylor Swift, that I think is that the movie brings to the table is I love the new song. I think Beautiful Ghosts, which is the song that was given to Victoria, a cat who does not sing in the play. She's silent in the play because they have to get a ballerina that's so good to do those roles that they don't get someone who can sing. So
a ballerina of that quality is never a triple threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet somehow Francesca Hayward is amazing. And they gave her this beautiful, gentle song that, in my view, also connects the big emotional threads of the film. It positions Victoria, this young cat who's joining the tribe and trying to get into the tribe, looking at this person who had fallen out of favor with the tribe in Jennifer Hudson's character, Grisabella. And I think it plays beautifully emotionally. And I think the song is incredible. And I forget what won the Oscar for Best Song this year. I have to go check, but I was on like a campaign to be like, Beautiful Ghost should get an Oscar. I don't care. It's going to be the biggest upset ever. And I'm sure it was actually withdrawn from Oscar consideration. And I actually think that was lame. I think that like this, everyone got too self-conscious about that film. Like, even James Corden, I'm not the biggest fan of James Corden, but there's some TMZ video of him saying that, I haven't seen the movie. I hear it's terrible. I'm like, James Corden, you had to have known when you were on your knees eating garbage, which is one of the things he does.
Right.
This was going to be a strange movie. You don't
get
to
bright green fat suit.
Exactly. Like, you don't get to afterwards, like, say, I haven't seen it and it's horrible. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So clearly, when Ian McKellen was licking up the milk, you were proud to rustle through that garbage because you wanted to be cool like Ian McKellen. But you don't hear Ian McKellen being like, I don't know if you said anything bad about the movie because he's a professional.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to have the hottest take.
Exactly.
So do you think it needed any celebrities, or would you have recast the celebrities out of it?
Oh, this is an amazing question. Well,
Other than Jennifer Hudson, she stays, I don't want to lose her memories.
Well, Jennifer Hudson stays because traditionally I think they get a singer to play that role. Like that's usually a singer. I think Ellen Page or Elaine Page is the original or one of the original ones.
Okay, yeah.
Who sang it. Like you get like a Broadway singer. So Jennifer Hudson is exactly who in this time should be Grisabella. I love the casting of Idris Elba as McCavity. And I think when he's naked at the end is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like it's so crazy. But I loved him walking around in that hat and this
overcoat.
Jacket. I thought that was perfect. I thought that and I thought James Corden, who again, not a huge fan, he's a fine Bustopher Jones. I don't know if you needed him to play Bustopher Jones, but he was a fine Bustopher Jones.
Yeah.
But it seemed they used the celebrities more for the cats that were coming in and out of the show, and less the way like in the show, the Rum Tum Tugger, Munkustrap, Demeter Bomb Ballerina are, and I think there's Jelly Lorem are like the heavy lifters of the show. Like they're in almost every one of the numbers, and they're all similar size. They're like the adult. They're like the Gen X cats like of our generation. Like if they're, and then there are the kittens who are also in kind of all of the numbers. And to me, those have always been my favorite cats. Among that, only the Rum Tum Tugger really has a big introduction about himself because he's awesome. He's the Rum Tum Tugger. But I think because they had the celebrities, one of the things that they missed out on was the celebrities really, like, they pulled some of those characters away because I'm sure they want to pay them as much. Like Taylor Swift drops in as Bomb Ballerina for that one scene.
Right.
I'm okay with the way they used her as the emissary of McCavity, I guess. It does change the meaning of that song quite a bit. But I was bummed that, I don't get to see Bomb Ballerina throughout, no matter who was cast. It means
she loses her storyline by just having a solo.
Exactly. Now they replaced her. I'm getting really nerdy here. They gave Cassandra more of that role, which I thought was really well. I mean, she did a really good job. So I guess like they don't need to get that. So I think the problem with the celebrities is just that because it probably costs more money to have them. You didn't get to play as much with some of the characters because they needed to have famous people. But for Jenny Anidots, who is Rebel Wilson, for Bustopher Jones, these are one scene cats. These are one scene cats. So those are fine. And Judi Dench was awesome as Deuteronomy. Her lifting her leg is truly one of the strangest things I've seen.
So bizarre. So strange.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
But she also sold it. That was interesting because that's a part in the play that every time I've seen it is played by a baritone or a bass, and usually by a black man. Usually all the times I've seen it has been sort of these older, like very majestic voice, like almost operatic voices. And they chose to have her do it more of like speaking, which I think having Judi Dench is totally fine. I think it was interesting choice that they really changed the music on that. Yeah, I mean, if I could recast any of them, I think that Jason Derulo as Rum Tum Tugger was good.
Yeah.
Very good, actually. I didn't know who he was. Like other people know who he was. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was really good.
And Rum Tum Tugger is like one of my childhood crushes.
Yeah.
Like
because he's
a sexy cat.
He is a sexy cat. He shakes those hips and all the kittens, you know? So Jason Derulo was a good choice.
Yeah.
To me, I might have put I think a Justin Timberlake at another time might have worked as well. A Justin Timberlake might have worked well, but I think that's serving the same purpose of the Justin Derulo, which is this pop star, kind of character who can shake their hips really well. I mean, he was more Elvis-y Elvis meets hairband when we were kids. And in this movie, he's more R&B star, which is good.
Yeah.
One of my biggest bones to pick with the movie versus the soundtrack is the mix on Rum Tum Tugger, and I quote my sister here, was self-conscious. They didn't commit, it was like they went 75% of the way, and they they just didn't commit to it as much as they could have, and so it just sounds kind of weird. I'm like, you made the decision to have these people
let them go.
party
Like, let
in a
them
milk
bring
bar.
it.
They're
Yeah.
like smearing themselves in milk, dancing. Let those horns sing.
Oh, man.
So the Rum Tum Tugger you had a crush on, did you ever do any of the headcanon like relationships? Were you ever like, oh, are those two together or anything like that? Like I did.
I mean, I probably did. And this was some of my problem with Les Mis, is that I listened to the cast album for so long that you conflate the women singers and men singers as like single characters. Like, I don't know that I always differentiated all the cats as different characters growing up. So, but when I saw it, the tour a couple years ago and Rum Tum Tugger came out, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, that's like a weird emotion I'm feeling right now, which is that this was a song I had a crush on. Like this energy. And after I saw the movie, like Mr. Mistopheles, he's the magic one, right? Like trying to do magic. And he was the one that I was just like, oh, I just want to hold you so close right now.
That
like,
I think
that was one of my favorite numbers in the movie.
To me, what was really interesting is that in the play, I always found Mr. Mistopheles live somewhat asexual, right? Whereas Rum Tum Tugger is this very sexual character, right?
Yeah.
This very, he's the Lothario. All the women have had a relationship with him, and
he's like a Bon Jovi. Like he's a lead singer of an '80s hair band.
Exactly.
And when we were kids,
When we were kids, you're right. You're totally right. But Mr. Mistopheles in the movie is one of the audience avatars. Is one of the people he's not as self-assured. He's not the automatic magical cat. He's more timid, and he's developing this relationship with Victoria. And in that sense, they gave him again, I don't know if sexuality is the right word, but they gave him a romantic plot that was totally empty from the character previously, where I totally get what you're saying. And he's kind of like, I feel like he's the more appropriate, like sensitive guy for these times. That's more of how he is. Like
he's more evolved. He's a millennial.
Exactly. He's more, he's more sensitive. He goes and he rescues Victoria, and he's not sure of himself. And I mean, that scene is beautiful when they changed the meaning of some of those scenes, like when they do the magic in the movie, that I thought it's different, but I'm down with it. I thought it was cool.
That was a song with like real stakes for me in the movie. Like because you didn't know if it was going to work out.
Yeah.
And you were like really hoping for him and like afraid it wasn't going to happen. But I also love close-up magic. I love magic.
Oh, you do? I love I have a
magic.
Question.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I don't want to learn how to do magic, but I do love the mind bending elements of it. Yeah. And we took our kids to see Penn and Teller in Las Vegas a couple years ago. And I was trying to find, like, is there a movie or like a video of a stage show of people doing magic? Like where it's like, because we can't go to a show right now.
Right. Because
I would love to, like, I can show them Now You See Me, but is there like a Penn and Teller live show or a David Copperfield live show that people like watch that amazes them?
Oh, there's got to be. I mean, David Copperfield, I think we may have also seen him when he toured Terre Haute. But a David Copperfield special when we were kids was like that was an event.
Oh yeah, I mean,
remember when he disappeared the Statue of Liberty?
To this day, I still am like, and not only that, as a Goldbergs fan, that plays out in the Goldbergs as well.
It's, to me, going to see magic is like going to a haunted house, is like going on a roller coaster. I'm coming to a magic.
You think you're gonna die? Because a haunted house to me just seems like the opportunity to be murdered.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to a haunted house, but I don't understand, like, going on a roller coaster, going to a haunted house, and then being like, it's not that scary. If I'm going to go on a roller coaster, I'm going to scream my head off because the goal is to scream and be scared and have your stomach go, woo, right? Yeah. The goal of seeing magic is not to outsmart the magician. It's to be tricked and to be wowed.
Maybe to have a sense of wonder. I mean, I feel like we're in the same theme here right now, right? We're talking about this, like, unironically submitting to the flow of the wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's also in LA, you have to know someone to get to go.
Ooh.
There's a place called the Magic Castle. And it is, you go to see close-up magic. And you have to, like, a member has to take you.
That's so cool.
I've never been. I've heard about it on podcasts. It's like on my list of LA invitations that I want to get is like, I want somebody to take me to the Magic Castle.
Do you just tweet out and say, hey, anyone got an extra invite? Or is it like just the fanciest people have this?
It's not the fanciest. It is fancy people, but you have to be, and I will publicly say, like, I want to go to the Magic Castle. I think the fanciest people who have the passes, like, maybe don't want people to know they're members because it's nerdy and weird. But it's like, it's a nerdy, weird club. And I would love one night to go to the Magic Castle. Just seems like awesome. a cool night out in LA.
That's really cool. Yeah, magic is one of those things don't ever want to learn to do. It's like stand up. I don't ever want to learn to do it. It's so amazing to watch and just be dazzled by how amazing people are doing it. And I'm good with that.
Yeah. What haven't I asked you about cats that you still want to make sure you say?
Okay. So there's two. So number one, we don't have to do this, but I just would like it known that my sister and I were talking about cats once and I was driving. And I named, like, she's like, can you name the cats? And I just started, and she said, I named all the cats in the play and then ones that are in different alternate versions of the play. So like I had like nailed the cast by heart and like deep cut cats like Tumble Brutus.
So I do happen to have the IMDb open in front of me. Obviously you don't have to tell them in order, but let's hear a naming of the cats.
I have no notes in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with Munkastrap, Runtum Tugger, Victoria, Jelly Lorem, Demeter, Bomb Ballerina, Mr. Mistopheles, Alonzo. Often, he doesn't sing often, but he's very much a part of the show. You got your Skimble Shanks, your Jenny Annie Dots, Deuteronomy, Grisabella. There is Syllabub, who was originally called Jemima, and then for non-European productions, and then pretty much every other production is called Syllabub, appropriately so, for obvious reasons. There's Cassandra. There's Corporate Cat, I believe, is one of them.
Pat.
Something like that.
Yeah.
There's like the twins. There is I said Jelly Lorem. Hold on. I got some more cats in here inside me. Do I say Bustopher Jones? I don't know if I said Bustopher Jones. There is Griddlebone. There is Growl Tiger, who has been erased from the play actually at this point, which is kind of a bummer. There's the Rumpus Cat, there's McCavity, there's Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser. There is, I could have done the order of the play, but now I'm naming you again like random extra cats. That I said Tumble Brutus. There's a couple of these other like little cats that I don't want to miss. I don't want to like shortchange. There's some great. I think I've got, Electra. There's Electra, right? Is there an Electra in there?
Yeah, there's Electra.
Yeah,
there's a number of good, there's Demeter, Plato, Socrates. There's a lot of good.
Oh, yeah. So Demeter Roman. I got because she's a main cat.
Okay.
And then there's this one that's like Quaco or something like that. Quaxo. And that sometimes is Mr. Mistopheles. Sometimes they quake, like they mix up, they use the character place too.
So you really have spent some time.
Yeah, but this is the way I am with things that I love. And this is why I love your show, because I like when people I'm a fan of people that are fans of things.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that, like people loving something makes it just fun to, like, I'll get into something with someone, or I'll watch something with someone just because they're the person to watch it with, because they're enjoying it so much.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think a lot of us, especially Gen X, we grew up with memory being all over the place. I guess if you grew up on the East Coast, now I'm learning those advertisements for Winter Garden were a big deal. And then there was, I think it was an SNL sketch, but it could have been Mad. It was better than Cats. I'll see it again and again. It was like a line in a sketch.
Oh.
Of like, oh no, it might have been Kids in the Hall. It might have been like a 40 Helens
now
Agree.
I need to check that out.
It was better than Cats. I will see it again and again. And that was a touchstone like comedy thing among my friends. Like we said that to each other all the time in junior high and high school. And I don't know where we picked it up.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, since we're getting towards the end, the other thing I want to give a shout out to.
Yes.
Oh, and you didn't ask me my favorite cat. I kind of want to know your favorite cat. Who's your favorite cat? I've had the same favorite cat since I was a little kid.
I think it was Rum Tum Tugger, but Mr. Mistopheles really won me over in the movie. I don't know. I think those are my... Yeah. Oh, Skimble Shanks.
They did him very well in the movie.
Yeah.
He was awesome in the movie.
Because he did all the tap dancing, right?
Yeah, they did that like stomp-like thing on the rails. And then some people are like, what's going on with the scale? As opposed to, this is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how are they on a railroad? I'm like, there are people dressed as cats. Why are we having this conversation?
Yeah, because it sounds good.
So I'm going to play it similar to you. My favorite cat growing up, Munkustrap. He's kind of like the Luke Skywalker of the group. Again, He's the leader. He's Deuteronomy's right hand. He kind of has to, regulate. I like that about him. And he's the first voice you really hear in the Jellicle Cat's main song. In the movie, it's Victoria, a cat that I didn't really pay a ton of attention to, but I thought that Francesca Hayward and then the song Beautiful Ghost, like to me, that symbolized all that was right about the movie.
Yeah.
With her and every physical emotion she brought to it was amazing. The other thing I want to talk about before we go is you're a fan of comedy. I'm a fan of comedy.
Yes.
Fembot PhD is a sketch group in LA. There's a number of amazing, talented people in it, particularly one woman, Candice Martellero, who's been a guest on our show. And she's super talented, fun woman who introduced me to the world of Fembot PhD. They have a sketch by a woman named Jessica Amal, which is Cats, a one-person show. And I watched this. It has however many views it has. I must be 10 to 15% of the views on YouTube of this, because it is truly absolutely hilarious. And it's that exact kind of making fun that is done by people who both like that just get the joke or get what this is about. Jess Amal, you are an incredibly talented person. I don't know her personally at all, but I did recently draw a picture of fan art for her of her one woman show of like the character, because she's like, and I sent a print out to Candice to give to her. And I think that if you love comedy and you want a nice, equally funny sort of take on Cats kind of thing, as some of the ones we're talking about, Cats one-person show on Fembot PhD's YouTube channel is a must.
And it's just like
Amal.
A minute and a half?
It's a minute and a half. It's a minute and a half trailer for Cats, the one-woman show.
Okay, great. I found it. I will link to it. Shai, this was so fun.
This was amazing. This show is great. You're awesome. This is so much fun to do. I feel very fortunate to get to talk about cats with you.
This was really fun. And I'll tell you a secret, which is I never closed my browser tab with the live show, and it still works.
I could just come back and just do more finding favorites just on these three people. Basically. It
was such a fun show. That was fun, but it was a good palate cleanser to talk to you about legitimately loving cats. And what is the cats aside, what is the first live show, musical, play, concert, when we're allowed to go again, what is the thing you want to see?
Oh, the band I want to see most is Fishbone. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. They are the ska, punk, funk, metal, everything. They're huge social activists, like voices against injustice. They've been for 30 years. If you follow me on any of my Instagrams, I've done a bunch of posts where I'm wearing an F racism t-shirt. They have been selling those for 30 years. That band, the energy that comes off that band,
I don't know. Do they still tour?
Oh yeah, they've been touring
Nice.
forever, and there is an amazing film about them. It's now old, like other developments have happened in their career since then. But Everyday Sunshine: The Story of Fishbone is my favorite rock documentary.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing. If you've never heard a note of their music, watch that documentary, and you'll be like, "Oh my goodness, I did not know there would be no Red Hot Chili Peppers or No Doubt or whatever other bands if it wasn't for these guys."
No, I definitely listened to them in high school.
So, what about you? What concert do you want to see?
I can't wait to go back to live comedy.
Oh yeah.
Like I felt really silly when I went to see. I saw so much How Did This Get Made live when they came through Chicago. They did 6 Chicago shows in the course of essentially like 12 or 13 months. They did one weekend where they did 4 shows, and then they came back a year later and did 2. And I saw 5 of those 6 shows, and I flew to LA and I saw them at Largo, and I was a little self-conscious about like going to see so many live shows and liking a podcast so much. And I am just so grateful that I have those in my memory bank of the last set of Chicago shows. The people I'm in a Facebook group with of How Did This Get Made fans, like we all met up for dinner before the show.
That's so good.
And we do like an annual gift exchange. So I want a live show not only so I can see my favorites on stage again, but there's this like wonder. I love the fans of How Did This Get Made? And I want to get to see them and have a drink and in real life again.
The good side of our digital world is the ability to make friends who are fans of things unironically, and you can enjoy being with. Like, I feel that way about all the gold nerds out there. I feel that way about How Did This Get Made fans, although you're the one I know other than my sister. And I think like that's the good side, and getting a chance to meet IRL is really special.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.